When is Billy Napier getting fired?
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Into the Portal podcast in a crossover with Locked On Gators. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On the Portal and Locked On Gators a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Right now, you can download the Gametime app, create an account, and get tickets for $20 off with your first purchase. Just check out Gametime today. And we're going to be talking about all things Florida Gators and their implosion, especially on offense. Give them some props for their D, but is DJ Lagway healthy? Is Florida even really trying? What is the mass exodus that is possibly going to happen during this off week? We're going to explain the 4-game rule and why that's very important for the transfer portal. But the overarching theme is twofold. Is DJ Lagway going to be in Gainesville next year? And when is Billy Napier going to be fired? Straightforward. I have my own thoughts on that, and so does Brandon Olson, host of Locked On Gators. Brandon, right off the bat, man, why is Billy still in Gainesville? Give me your 20-second answer on that, because I know that you're a huge Billy fan and you just want to promote it. Go for
it. Scott Strickland's a spineless loser, 1. 2, the transfer portal possibility, the window opening 30 days once a coach is fired. And 3, I think that Scott Strickland is giving Billy every opportunity to fight for that job that no one believes he will keep and no one believes he will be able to retain for a second year in a row, but is going, hey, I gave you every chance.
Okay, I can accept those. I want to dive into the obvious part here, and this is for argument's sake. For those who do not know, I want to be very clear. The 4-game rule in college football is this. If it's not your last year of eligibility this year, key, and you only play 4 games, you can sit out the rest of the season and get another year. It is a quote-unquote red shirt. Well, the Gators, after playing Miami, that was their 4th game, and they're in a bye. Historically, if you're going to fire a coach, it's during a bye week. Their next bye, if it doesn't happen now, would be the week before the Georgia Bulldogs game in Jacksonville, Florida. If they haven't fired him by the end of Monday, probably not going to happen. So I'm just going to say it. And you can, Brandon, you can dive into this however you want, but I am full-fledged all in on they're trying to avoid kids from redshirting and sitting out. Any disagreement at all on that?
Nope. I said it on the crossover with Alex Dono from Locked On Canes last week, and I know a bunch of Miami fans clipped it, and they were like, oh, what a piece of garbage thing to say. Business is business. It's strictly financial. And so a lot of this is going to be, hey, if a kid burns his red shirt and then we fire the coach, he's less likely to redshirt and opt out because he wants to put out film for his new school, wherever that's going to be. And so I do think that that's absolutely playing a part in this. And I'm not even saying just Florida specifically. I am positive that there are other schools that are going, hey, we want to fire our coach. And this will happen next year and the year after as well, as long as that rule is in place of schools are going to go, hey, we want to fire our coach. We also want to retain our talent. And so we will essentially incentivize them, I guess, to continue playing by going, hey, well, you've already burned your red shirt. You've already used a year of eligibility. Put out good film. Maybe you get better with a different coach there.
I don't disagree at all. Matter of fact, I think that's pretty spot on. And unfortunately, this is the nature of business. Sometimes when a decision is made, such as the 4-game rule, it benefits the players. But there are small parts of this where it is not. You don't know what Scott Strickland's going to do. And let me be very clear. I always pick on coaches at press conferences. I say there's 3 things that they do. They lie, and they lie. They're not going to tell you about the depth chart and be honest. They're not going to tell you about the injuries. They're not going to tell you if the starting quarterback is going to be A or B. They're going to lie. And this is, in the sense of Mr. Strickland, the same deal. He's in a bad spot. He can't be honest. He would be absolutely screwing himself if he was. So he's going to hide. He's not going to do press conferences. He's probably not going to do many sound bites, if any, and he's just going to stay away from that. I would not want to be Mr. Strickland's secretary. Dear God, that would not be a good time.
I wouldn't want anything to do with that loser. I like that's why when people go, oh, why is Billy Napier still here? It's like I can't I can't get into the mind of an absolute loser like Scott Strickland. So like, I can't tell you the answer because I can't think like that. Like I want to win. I have pride for the logo. I have more pride for the logo than the actual people that make the decisions. It's embarrassing. Like they're greedy, selfish, spineless losers. And Scott Strickland is going to go, okay, well, we won a basketball national championship. I got a contract extension. I'm relatively safe not from public backlash, but I'm relatively safe in terms of my job security. But I'm just spineless as it is because last year the argument was, well, Scott Strickland's not firing Billy because if Scott Strickland fires Billy, that's an admission that he failed finding this new head coach and he will be fired. Since then, a Scott Strickland hire won a national championship in basketball. Scott Strickland got a contract extension because of it. And now Scott's safe. So Scott's just, again, like I can say that maybe he's really just going, hey, Billy, I gave you every chance to turn this around. You didn't do it. And when they're mathematically out, then cut ties. But I also have part of this in me that knows how Scott Strickland has operated in the past. And I go, maybe this idiot is actually just genuinely considering still keeping Billy. I can't see how that's the possibility. But again, I can't think like a loser like Scott.
Well said. Well said. Now to the other question, and this is somewhat related to that, but it's more about actual on field. I've been around DJ. I've watched him throw. I followed him through high school. That is a very unique talent. And I know how well he can move when he's healthy. He's not remotely healthy. I'm 100% steadfast in that. Why is he even on the field? Because like the game against Miami, he was a sloth in terms of his mobility. There's no way. What am I missing?
He's a big kid now.
What do you think he weighs right now? 250?
Maybe a little bit more than that.
He should be at 235.
He's a big kid now. Like I do think that, and like I'm not saying in like, oh yeah, he got fat. I'm not saying that. I'm saying he's jacked. He's a freaking mountain there. But he's a bit more rigid, I think, because of it. And I think that's really holding him back. I mean, a guy like that, like you should watch him just be like, all right, hey, we got any 4th and 2, we're going. We're just running QB dive, QB blast, QB anything with him running downhill, and we dare you to stop us. And he doesn't look like that anymore. Like he's a big dude that's really rigid now, and it's hurting him. It's not just hurting him in the sense of not having the rushing ability. It's hurting him in the sense of escaping pressure.
That's the biggest problem.
Yeah, you look at last year, and he's getting hit in the backfield, the Florida State game. It was, I think it was Darrell Jackson wrapped him up, and he just threw him to the ground and spun around and found he's not going to do that this year because he's not as mobile as he used to be. And I'm not bashing the kid. I think he's still incredibly physically talented. I think that he's just got a different skill set and a different body type now, and that's taking some adjusting to, but it's also making him an easier target to hit for defenses.
When I watched him on that play where he rolled left and he was just trying to get a few yards, he couldn't even make it to the line of scrimmage before they pushed him out of bounds, and he had the angle. I'm like, this is not the same athlete before. I don't think that he's in complete physical condition that he needs to be because he missed reps, he was in a boot, blah, blah, blah. But on top of it, if he's over 250, I think they've made him too big. That's on the strength staff to a certain degree. That's on DJ's eating habits to a certain degree. A little bit of blame all around. Just out of curiosity, who's the backup?
Tramel Jones.
Tramel's not ready for that. I knew that. I've talked to his dad, so that's probably the other problem. That's okay. I know this is going to shock you when I say this. That is mismanagement by Billy Napier. You didn't recruit to Florida, which a dead rat can recruit to consistently at the quarterback position. That's it. It's Florida. It's a top 5 job in college football. Period. Yep. That is on Billy Napier. That is another reason that you should be fired.
He shouldn't have had that excuse last year. When Graham got hurt and then DJ got hurt, and then you went into the Texas game with Aiden Warner, so I feel like I only do this when I'm here with you, so I've been rusty for it, but a redshirt freshman transfer walk-on quarterback from Yale started for you against Texas, And people wanted to go, oh, well, what do you think the offense is going to do when you have Aiden Warner starting? I don't care about that. Last year was year 3, which means that you should have had at least 3 kids come in from high school at quarterback, because I think you should take one every single year is going to be my point always. And so you should have had at least 3 high school quarterbacks in there. And instead, you had DJ Lagway. And that was your only high school kid on your roster last year. Everybody else portaled in. And so I don't think you should have had the excuse last year, because you can say, oh, the quarterback situation sucked, but Billy Napier built that quarterback situation. I don't feel bad for that excuse. That's why whenever we talked about expectations and people go, well, what if DJ Lagway gets hurt and then they don't win as many games? I don't give a damn. Like, sure, you're not going to win as many games if DJ Lagway gets hurt. We're talking preseason now, Lord knows, but that's you built this roster. This is Billy Napier's roster. There's a handful of Dan Mullen guys still on this roster, and that's it. And interestingly enough, all of them are starters.
Oh, that's hilarious. When we come back, we're going to talk about the portal additions or lack thereof, and get into the defense a little bit and why it's also contributing to why Billy Napier should be 100% fired. That is next on this crossover, Locked On Gators and Locked On the Portal. Today's show is brought to you by Square. This is one of those opportunities for everybody, and it's something I love to do. Make sure you're supporting your local neighborhood spots, whether it's a coffee shop, whether it's a clothing store, whether it's a retro store, whatever it may be, and every business in your area, or maybe it's close to your favorite school. In Tallahassee, they've got all kinds of them I'll talk about in a second. But again, coffee shop, restaurant, breakfast place, retail outlet, make sure your neighborhood thrives. And when it does, your neighborhood will be better. So for me, I like to go places and work on stuff and drink coffee, have bagel, just kind of chill out. And there's one of those at just about any place you go. And in Tallahassee, just among many places, there's the Black Dog Cafe. That is a really cool place. Newberry and other places too, they're really cool. But in every city, there's a place that you can go to. And even in your hometown, make sure you're supporting it. And Square wants to be a part of that in your life and in local communities. And they are part of that every time you tap. So go to square.com/go/Locked On College to learn more. We will see you in the neighborhood. And we are also brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Gametime is your opportunity to get great tickets. And with college football being back, you shouldn't be any more excited than right now. We're in the middle of it. The tailgates, all the fun, the energy in the stands. But there's nothing quite like being in the stands. But getting tickets can sometimes be endless hidden fees and surprises at checkout. That's why I use Gametime, and you should as well. The app that gives you the advantage, and the fans can have fun and not worry about last-minute tickets anytime you go. All you got to do is download the Gametime app. In just a few taps, you're going to have opportunities for whatever school you want to root for. Florida State, Miami, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Michigan. It doesn't matter. Every game is going to have opportunities for you. All you got to do is check out the Gametime app. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the app and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Again, use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Download the Gametime app today. Thank you once again for making this crossover of Locked On the Portal and Locked On Gators a part of your day. Here on a Tuesday, we're talking all things Billy Napier being fired, because he should be. All things with DJ Lagway. But I also want to dive into the next part. While they've just been brutalized at the wide receiver, like, how many receivers are out right now for UF, Brandon? How many is it?
Depends on the minute that you're talking about.
3 or 4 as well.
Dallas should be back to practice this week. Aiden Mizell should be full go for the next game. There's like there are rumors about why he missed the game against Miami, why he didn't play. The rumor, again, and I mean rumor, I'm putting no validity to this, is that that he like missed weight by being too light. I don't buy that, which is why I say the rumor. So I'm not buying that at all, but I will say that he got injured during one of the scrimmages before the season, came back, and that's why he wasn't a full participant in the games prior to, why he was constantly rotating in. I don't know if there was a setback or something. But I don't know. I'm not buying the weight thing. That seems silly to me. I would think it's more likely that, he just wasn't ready to go in that game. And so that's what I'll say there. So Aiden Mizell, J. Michael Sturdivant got hurt during the Miami game. We won't find out pretty much anything about that until at the earliest next Wednesday when Florida needs to put out an availability report for the Texas game. They're having a lot of fun here.
Oh boy. That's a little bit rough to say the least. Well, let me ask you this. Beyond the receivers, to pick a position, offense or defense, or even special teams, which spot did Billy not hit in the portal that he should have? They only took 5 guys, if I remember right. They're trying to build culture through high school, which I'm all for. But should they have added at least 1 or 2 more players? And what spots should they have targeted?
Well, they took quarterback Harrison Bailey. They took wide receiver J. Michael Sturdivant. They took punter Tommy Doman. They took edge rusher Kofi Asari. And they took defensive back Michael Caraway Jr. And I think those are the 5, if I'm not mistaken. I felt prior to the season, and I feel kind of vindicated in saying this now, that I thought they should have gone for a right tackle or an offensive tackle in the portal. Either go for a right tackle to start opposite Austin Barber or go for a left tackle and move Austin Barber back to the right side. They didn't do that. Their offensive line, I think the issues were overplayed up until the Miami game. I think most of the issues for the first 3 weeks were communication issues. Because again, watch the LSU game, I'll say. LSU wasn't sending crazy blitzes. They were just sending disguised pressures, and those guys were coming in untouched. So it wasn't LSU players beating you. It was just you not identifying who's rushing and coming in free. Miami game, they just beat the absolute crap out of you. No other way to put that one. But you chose to not go into the portal for an offensive tackle. You chose to go with what you have, and we love Bryce Lovett, but long-term, he's a guard, not a right tackle. Caden Jones has taken over that starting spot there. Also not perfect. I do think he was a better candidate, better option there, but also not perfect. And yeah, your offensive line looking pretty bad when I will say very publicly, I was saying to go get an offensive tackle, and Isaiah World was one of the names that I mentioned, who is over at Oregon kicking ass right now. So would have been really fun to look at that one. Didn't even kick the tires on it.
It is what it is. I'll ask it in this regard too. They've had some, I don't want to say massive impact with portal additions before, but this year maybe it's not as much, but their high school class was really good. Which high school kids have you been most excited about, and which ones you think are on the teeter-totter point? Because sometimes it takes a few games for them to play the rest of the year. Which high school players?
I thought that Jaden Woods was thrust into the starting spot with George Gumbs out against Miami. And I thought he played really well considering what the expectations were.
Look at the tackles for Miami he was going against, man.
And he was balling, got his first career sack against them too. Like he played very well. Vernell Brown III has been the most productive receiver you've had on the roster. Jeremiah McLeod played his ass off against Miami. He was another guy that was thrown into the lineup because of the injuries on the defensive line for Florida. So Jeremiah McLeod didn't play significant snaps. He played 12 or 15, but they were impactful snaps while he was out there. And so he's been balling. And a lot of these freshmen have played already. When you talk about this 2025 class, like Vernell Brown has played. Dallas Wilson's been hurt, but would be playing if he was healthy. Jaden Wood's been playing. Lagonza Hayward played against Miami as well, especially after Aaron Gates got injured. Lagonza Hayward is now star 2 on this team. Joseph Mbachu's played on the defensive line. Duke Clark's running back 3 now. He took that job from Katie Daniels. Javari Flowers played against Miami because injuries piled up. Dijon Johnson got knee surgery on Monday, so he's going to be out for potentially the remainder of the season. And so a lot of these young guys have played, which has been impressive. Didn't go into the portal much, that's true, but I do think that this staff had the thought, and maybe this is indicative of them, but had the thought of, we're in year 4. Most of the roster are guys that we took out of high school. And the way that Billy Napier has recruited at Florida has been very consistent of them saying, hey, and Billy said it publicly. I think for the first time he said it publicly this year was, we're not recruiting for good college football players. We're recruiting for NFL draft picks, as in we're taking guys that have the physical measurables and we're going to develop them. And it's a ballsy approach. Gonna be honest with you. And what I said years ago was that it's a great approach. It really is, if you develop them. And I don't think we've seen that to this point. There were quite a few coaches that I wanted Florida to replace during this past offseason when contracts were expiring. They chose to retain them all. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Great quote. When we come back, I want to discuss, because Billy's inevitable firing, although probably not as much in terms of the timing that Brandon and I believe it should be, how is that going to impact the 2026 Florida recruiting class? That could be very touchy. That is next on this crossover of Locked on the Portal and Locked on Gators. Today's show is brought to you by Mazda, who crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. You can make everyday drive feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls, with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season with a Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda. Move and be moved. All right. This is the question that no fan likes to hear when their coach is on the hot seat, but it is the inevitable one. Brandon Olson here, joining me on this crossover, Locked on Gators, Locked on the Portal. Brandon, which recruit or recruits do you feel are most likely to bail if Billy is fired?
Marquez Daniels got to be the first one. Marquez Daniels is going to be gone. He was at the Miami game. He was there. He was in the locker room with them after the game, in the Miami locker room after the game.
Not great. Not great.
No, not a great sign there at all. He's got to be the first guy that you talk about. And look, I do think there are some that will stay. I do think there are some that straight up want to be Gators. And I do think there are some that, like a guy like Kendall Gerville, he got injured in his first game of his senior season. If a new coach comes in and says, "Hey, we'll maintain that scholarship offer to you," I would think that would at least mean something to him. Justin Williams, a Gainesville kid, Malik Morris kind of always felt like a Gator, and at least from what I'd heard, had always felt like a Gator. So I do think that logo means something to him. I think there's a lot of guys that Will Griffin, I mean,
absolutely
hasn't even taken visits elsewhere. Like,
I've spoken to him about this off the record. I'll make this very simple. He's going to Florida next.
Yeah. So I think that there's a lot of guys like that. Someone that I don't think will stay, but I would really want him to stay, is offensive tackle Tyler Chukium. It's one of my favorite kids in this entire class. I think he's just a dude. I think the fact that he's a 3-star is an absolute travesty. But I also will say, ranking services clown show half the time now. It's very politicized, in my opinion, of like, oh, well, if you went to this camp, then we'll give you a bump. And if you don't go to this camp, we're going to hurt you. But I would say Tyler Chukium is someone that kid's a baller. I don't know how you watch his film and go, hey, he's not just an awesome recruit. Georgia's pushing for him. He's a Georgia kid. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I'd break the bank to keep him with whatever new coach, honestly.
Which players do you think are the most likely, besides those handful? Or, well, let me rephrase it. Do you think at least half the class just flat wants to be Gators, just generically speaking?
Maybe not half, but I'd say like 40-ish%.
In today's NIL world, that's actually about par for the course. And I know I'm also curious how that
works out. Like because we can say the quiet part out loud. Kids get paid to commit. They've gotten paid to commit for a long time now, or since NIL has become a thing. I'm curious how that shakes out if a coach gets fired, if there's some kind of clause where, hey, if a coach gets fired, you keep what you've been paid so far and you go elsewhere, because I don't think you're going to get people to give you the money back. But we'll see. I mean, I think it also depends on how schools handle it. I've said that as a school, I think that using revenue sharing over straight up NIL would be better for recruiting. And then you use NIL to keep your star players, because you get that cap for revenue sharing, and they can't there's no clearinghouse to tell you, hey, you can't give this amount of money to this kid. So you can give recruits the big money. And then like a DJ Lagway, 5-star quarterback, Gatorade deals, all these deals. No clearinghouse is going to go, hey, you're giving him too much money. They're going to approve whatever amount you give. So if you use the NIL for guys like that and you use rev sharing for recruits where it's unrestricted, I think that might be an approach teams use, in which case if you use rev share for it, no idea what that agreement's like.
Yeah, it gets complex, but I know old school fans expect you to pick the logo. Kids pick schools based on the coaches first and foremost. The NIL will change it at the end if it's really close. That's how it normally works. There are exceptions, but usually kids pick the coach. And I know everybody's throwing things at their TV screens and their computers. That's not changing. Florida, Notre Dame, USC, Texas, even those kind of brands, kids pick coaches. And Billy, correct me if I'm wrong, is not only a popular recruiter, he is popular with the current Florida Gators roster. Am I accurate in that?
Yep, those kids. I've said it before. I think it's a testament to how good of a salesman he is, because those kids will bang for him. Like it's crazy how fairly consistent. And look, like last year there were rumors of like, oh, the locker room's turning on him. The only thing they turned was their season around. That's it. I don't want to hear anything about the locker room turning on him. I've said it before. It was year 2 when they lost to Arkansas. And I remember speaking with players after that game, and the players were like, man, I really believe in him. Like, I hope he gets the time to turn it around. It hasn't turned around to this point, but again, this was 2023, but those players, when I was like, hey, well, you don't miss a bowl game twice at the University of Florida and keep your job. So he's got to figure something out, which he, of course, did in 2024. But those kids are still super bought in on the process. And it's honestly impressive that I could see what I see on the field and you could see what you see on the field. But those kids are still just, yeah, I'll do anything for them.
That's crazy. Like I said, loyalty to Billy, from what little I get, and I don't follow Florida like you do, but I lived in Florida. I've covered a lot of the kids that went there. Everybody I've ever spoken to just really likes the guy. And that's part of it. Parents want to feel comfortable with who they place their child around, which wholeheartedly, I get it. But his ability to get guys to buy in when they are terrible, getting beat at home by Arkansas is mind-blowing. But I digress. So I think Billy should be fired, and I'm just going to go on record. I know Brandon will agree. At the latest, he's getting fired the week of the Georgia game because they have a bye.
Should be.
You think there's a chance that Strickland lets it go all the way to the end of the season? You think I guess they could win some games and still be mathematically in the SEC race.
I mean this wholeheartedly. My opinion of Scott Strickland is so low that it wouldn't shock me if they were going out there like, there's still a chance we'll retain him. There's nothing would shock me. I think that for everybody, it's so glaringly obvious. And look, I'm not even doing I know there's a bunch of Florida Gators fans who are like, oh, screw Billy, I think it's as plain and simple as this. I think he's just not good enough to get the job done at Florida. I think that's all that has to be said about it. I blame the guy keeping him in this position, which is why I'm so hard on Scott Strickland. But yeah, I think despite how glaringly obvious it is that Florida should move on, nothing would shock me with Scott Strickland. There's a reason I call him a spineless loser. It's not for the clicks. It's because I enjoy doing it because I think it's true. Like nothing would shock me here. Again, I think he will get fired. I absolutely think he will. But similar to last year, everybody said, oh, it's so obvious it's time to move on. Turn things around, which really was a stretch of games, and then you ended the season strong and you kept your job. So I will say this, nothing would shock me with Scott Strickland. I think there's a 95% chance that Billy Napier does get fired. But the fact that that's not a 100, that's just how low my opinion is of Scott Strickland at this point.
Well said. I'm going to end it on that. Brandon, thank you for doing this crossover. Tell everybody where they can find your work.
Every single day with Locked On Gators, wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. And if you want written content, go to swampsignal.substack.com every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We got all 22 breakdowns coming out.
All right, buddy. I appreciate it. You can find this edition and every edition of the Portal Podcast, wherever you get your pods, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Podbean, and more. We will see you again soon.